Hello everyone, this is Nabil. In this video, I am going to talk about a book that I recently read called The Thinking Ape: Evolutionary Origins of Intelligence by Richard Byrne. In this book, the author discussed some hypotheses of cognitive evolution in primates. If you ask people what makes humans human or why humans are so different from any other animals, most people will probably attribute the difference to our ability to think or learn. Some more articulate people, like Yuval Noah Harari, may put things a little differently, like it is our ability to tell a story or to believe in something without any evidence, like the idea of states, religion, money, or even human rights. But the main concept mostly revolves around the ability of thinking. That is why it is crucial that we understand how intelligence evolved in primates throughout time. But the problem is we do not fully understand this process of cognitive evolution, mainly because of different limitations of conducting research in this particular area. Most anthropologists approach this problem by carefully examining fossil evidence and trying to see if the data supports their hypothesis. But Richard Byrne, the author of this book, took a completely different approach. He hypothesized that by analyzing evolutionary changes in other living descendants of human ancestors, we can understand the evolution of the thinking primate. This hypothesis was then divided into two different hypotheses: that the origin of intelligence in primates was driven by either need for obtaining food or by need for social life. In the preface of the book, the author said that he tried to pick the interpretation that he thinks will turn out to be right in the end, even if the data at present don't necessarily support those hypotheses. I thought that was a really unusual thing to say for any kind of scientific study. The author justified this decision to pursue this approach by discussing the lack of fossil evidence and difficulty in interpreting the available fossil evidence. Fossil evidence in general is really hard to find, and it is even harder to find fossil evidence of terrestrial animals compared to aquatic animals. One example of the limitation of fossil evidence discussed here was the continuous change in theories about Neanderthals. This was a nice way to justify mm, taking a different approach to find the answers, because even today we know very little about Neanderthals, and more importantly, our understanding of the Neanderthals is continuously changing as we discover new evidence. Moreover, with relatively new discoveries of archaeological sites like Göbekli Tepe, we are constantly reminded that all of today's generally accepted hypotheses about our past may not be true. Richard Byrne identified two cognitive boundaries between humans and other animals: capability of thought and language. Unfortunately, these boundaries are impossible to test from fossil evidence. In this book, the author discussed findings from a number of really interesting experiments, and in the end, the origin of intelligence was attributed to either social complexity or environmental complexity. Environmental complexity usually related to the need of finding food to survive. It requires developing a cognitive map to remember where food can be found, plan for hunting, and learning the use of tools to obtain food. Extracting food from unconventional sources and complex food processing may also have contributed to cognitive evolution. On the other hand, social complexity is related to need or understanding the benefits of social life. It is not just learning to make friends and allies and sharing food with them. It is also learning social manipulations and deception that may have contributed to the evolution of intelligence among primates. I would like to end this video by discussing an interesting experiment that was discussed in this book. The experiment was conducted to see if a chimpanzee can differentiate between accidental and deliberate mischief. In this experiment, a chimpanzee was denied a drink by two persons. The first person accidentally tripped and spilled the drink, and the second person put the drink on the ground intentionally. The chimpanzee was able to differentiate between the intentions of those two persons, even though the outcome was same in both cases. And the chimpanzee was constantly choosing the first person to request another drink. That's all I had for this presentation. I hope you get a chance to read the book, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to answer that. Thank you. Stay safe.